We've got an excellent group here of seasoned entrepreneurs who've built one company, two companies, three companies, and more. And they've probably been through a lot of the challenges that any entrepreneur is going to face. And as you heard from the previous panel, very often you have entrepreneurial teams which are fully composed of just technology people, right? So it's very important to have a marketing person. So let me give you a quick background about myself. We'll have everybody introduce themselves for about 2 to 3 minutes. But then I really want to have this become your meeting, which means we want to have you ask questions. And when you ask a question, please say your name, your company, give a 10, 20-second intro about your company, because you may be surprised that, by doing that, you're informing about 100 other people about your company, and deals can happen, right? So my background, after just 4 years of working as an engineer, I moved into marketing. And since 1980, I started marketing at Intel for 6 years, and then more at another company. And then for the last 25 years, I've been in marketing, right? So with all the companies that I started. And I can tell you that very often the difference between a successful startup and one that, just seems to be in the twilight zone, floundering around, even though all of them might have similar technologies, is that marketing, business development, and sales guy that you bring onto your team. In fact, I now do quite a bit of mentoring and teaching entrepreneurship and so on. And I say that always leave a slot in your founding team for a marketing guy, BD guy, and sales guy. One person who can do all three of those jobs. And that is probably going to be one key reason that can help you succeed as a company. And the reason, but they say, why not just hire the person? So there's a difference between the caliber of person that will join your team between an employee and a co-founder, right? So if you offer the option for a marketing guy who's working at Cisco or Google or Microsoft or Facebook or whatever, and say, hey, you join my company as the vice president of marketing or sales. Chances that he'll join an unfunded startup is very, very low. But if you tell him that, look, you can be a co-founder in my startup, now, believe it or not, you can reach the topmost person in the most exciting company, and he'll walk away from maybe even a multi-million dollars of stock options or grants that he might have to join your startup. So the quality of marketing person that you can get onto your founding team goes up exponentially if you can make it into a co-founder level thing. So that is, one piece of advice that I would give. So let me just have, the rest of the team introduce themselves.
My name is Prashant, Prahlad. I've been an entrepreneur for the last 20 years, and after a 7-year stint at Oracle, where I rose from being a technical developer to the consulting manager, managing Oracle projects all over the US. And in the last 20 years, I've had some successes. I've had 2 or 3 companies that had some amount of success and some failures. And the reason for the failures were mainly not having a good go-to-market strategy. And the reasons for the successes were the opposite of that, right? So we knew what the market was, we knew how to go after the market and get the largest amount of customers in the shortest possible time. One piece of advice that I just want to give before I let Vikas talk is sometimes GTM is like an afterthought, right? You build a product and then you say, oh, I need to hire a marketing guy to sell it. I need to hire a sales guy. And I see this from a lot of entrepreneurs. But like Raj said, this marketing and sales has to be in the DNA of the company from the beginning. And nowadays, even the way a product gets built, right, is with the GTM in mind. So whether you want to go channel, whether you want to go direct, who do you want to attract, and things like that. So this kind of a mindset of having a go-to-market strategy at the very inception, even before maybe building product, would be a great place to start.
Hi, my name is Vikas Aggarwal, and I've done 3 startups. But the first one that I did, I learned that the biggest error or the biggest variable in your business plan is really the sales and marketing piece. You have everything else covered, but really sales and marketing is the biggest variable. It never goes as you planned. And the second company raised about $5 million over there and lived through a very difficult 2003. Enterprise software, and again over there I learned that even though you are a founder, you can't just rely on building the product, you even have to learn how to sell it and market it. You can't just hire somebody like Rod said and say, well, I will build, you go and sell. It doesn't work. You have to leave your inhibitions behind and you really have to learn how to sell. And whether you do it through a co-founder or you do it through yourself, but that's the most critical component. That company had a good exit, raised some VC funding there. And the third company, I bootstrapped by myself, grew to about 200 customers, enterprise customers, and before we could raise money, had a good successful exit over there. And again, that's a lot of lessons learned from the earlier 2 ventures.
Yeah, hi, my name is Karunakaran. I go by A.G.K. initials, and I've been started my career as an engineer, worked at HCL. That was more of an entrepreneurial experience for me, and then I worked at Opti, where I did technical marketing, sort of slowly moving away from engineering to the sales and marketing side, and then became an entrepreneur myself, doing a chip design, IP, and chip design services kind of company. And most recently doing a software company. In each of those companies, it was bootstrapped. I didn't raise any money. I came too close to raising money. And in both the companies, I was the first sales and marketing person, right? So before we hired the first person, I ensured that myself and my co-founders did play the role of a sales and marketing person, and they had taken on some quota. I personally believe that made a big difference in our success as a company without raising money, because the revenue generation is paramount for our success, and that worked out well. Typically, 3-4 years into it is when we started considering hiring a VP of sales or marketing. So that's my experience, and I'm glad to share whatever we've learned. I think, like Raj said, we are here to answer your questions, so feel free to open up.
Hey, everybody. I'm Gabriel Cornejo. I'm from Tempe, Arizona, and I founded a company called MyBeeble. So if we're talking about a format of introducing our company, kind of a pitch session, we're attempting to remove the 6 degrees of separation that exists through human beings, and we're doing it through commerce. Mm-hmm. Okay? And so our go-to-market strategy is to focus on college students, specifically textbooks, because we all know what it feels like to get ripped off in the campus bookstore. So what we've done is we built a way for price comparisons to occur. Think of Kayak in that sense. But also, like Uber, we try to connect you with retailers and private sellers around you. So that way students can buy and sell directly with each other in person right on campus. Nice. Now, the challenge I've faced with this as a solo founder is I have limited time, but I've been able to get on ABC, NBC, CNN. I was on a reality TV show. Great. But our marketing window is very small for me to attempt other marketing experiments.
Yeah, exactly.
So I came out here in pursuit of finding other founders and to figure out the next steps to really execute on the bigger vision. So looking for some experts such as yourselves to help fulfill that void.
Yeah, I think you're the classic where I think you're on a good idea, and the key to your success is going to be a great marketing, kind of social media marketing and digital marketing kind of person who teams up with you. Between the two of you, I think your chance of success goes up dramatically. Actually, in 1996, there was a brilliant AI engineer that was sitting across the table from me at TiEcon, and he said, I've got great technology and an AI guru and so on, but I'm looking for somebody with marketing, BD, and sales experience, and that turned out to be me. So between the two of us, we basically built a company that had a $5 billion exit 5 years later. So, it makes all the difference. And, you come to the right place. There's a ton of probably good ones, and you just have to be on the lookout for a great marketing person. And these days, those days we did not have LinkedIn and so on. But now with LinkedIn and other things, I think you can even target the people that you want. But excellent. That is the right thing for you to be doing.
And I just think your business model is pretty innovative. It's got all the potential of being a network effects model, right? So the more sellers of used books you get in campuses, the more buyers you'll get. So I think like we all study in economics, if you price it really low or incent people to come onto your platform, the chances of success are going to be more. So that's my 2 cents to what you said, but I think it's a great model. It's just finding 1 or 2 colleges or universities where you get this traction with the buyers and sellers, and then you're replicating that model to other universities.
My name is Chetan, and my company is TrueNow. Just launched yesterday in beta. The portal basically helps the Excel database that people have. We convert it into an online database with no programming required. It creates all the screens and everything that is required to do it. This is my 8th product that I've done. All the 7 have failed, all because of not having any skills in marketing and sales. So I don't want to fail this time. Okay, I'm very positive about the product that I have, but I really need to know. I have heard that you need to have a co-founder. Problem number 1, how do I find one? And then, what is the percentage that I should offer as a co-founder? What shares, or how should I convince somebody to come on board, even if I find one? And if I'm still going to go bootstrapping, what knowledge or what skills I should pick up to do that?
So to answer your question about finding the co-founder, Raj gave you the answer. I think I also believe, I think in the previous panel also they said you got to have anywhere between 2 to 4. More than 4 is too much. Less than 2, you'll have to sail the ocean alone. It's there's various ways you can find. I mean, the way you need to look at it is I normally, the exercise that I do whenever I advise an entrepreneur or even my own startups, I've done 3 of them right now. What I do is, for that given idea, I look at what's the core competency of the team, maybe myself first. I write the strengths and weakness. Then for that business to succeed, what are all the strengths you need? And then I try to find that complementing 1 or 2 resources. And you just need to be out in the open. You need to ask around, push your network, whether it's in-person network like this, friends, family, college buddies. I don't know how, but I would say the longer you go without having a co-founder, the difficult it would be for you to part away the company. So I would say either you mentally set aside that money, so whenever you find that person, they can start vesting from that day on, but same ownership, or you spend the time, instead of trying to productize your idea, spend the time finding that person. That's what I would do, and I have done that successfully, and that's the advice I give to many startup entrepreneurs.
Right. No, it's, I think, a very valid case. You do need to go out, find someone, and it's easier said than done to say that go and find someone. You do need to network and socialize and meet people who are in the same space as what you're trying to do. And I think definitely do not just give the stock away from day one. There are many ways to, that's one of the biggest mistakes, that at least I find it in a lot of companies we advise, that you get a co-founder later, you give them all the stock right away, and what you want to do is either give them options, some kind of vesting in case it doesn't work out, or give them stock with a buyback clause in it, so that if they do leave, in the 1 year, they get the benefit of the stock. But so just keep that in mind.
I think you heard that in the previous panel too, which is, if you offer 4 or 5% and he's a super guy, the big companies are, the market is so hot right now for people like them who are rainmakers, that these big companies are going to throw money at them. So I think you want to plan for anything between 15% and 25%.
Yeah.
Okay, but vesting over 3 years, 4 years, whatever.
Yeah, most of the Silicon Valley lawyers who incorporate the company, the founder share purchase agreement will have a buyback rights. So they will say, if you leave the company within that period, whether it's 4 years, 5 years, whatever, then the company has the right to buy back the shares, and therefore the rest of the people's respective ownership increases. So.
Hi, I am Neerav Mehta. I am from Indoor Intelligence. We are doing 3D object recognition, specifically in the construction industry. My question is, some of you guys have bootstrapped your company, some of you guys had VC. Now, from what I understand, finding a go-to-market strategy does require some trial and error, which means some budget. So what differences did you find and how did you manage those between a VC-funded startup versus a bootstrap startup?
Obviously, when you're spending your own money, you're going to be a lot more diligent about, doing your MVP, minimum viable product. On the other hand, VCs are also pretty careful about, especially the early stage VCs. They don't want you to just go on wild goose chases and pivot, right, left, and centers. So they do want you to pivot, but the point is, only after you've validated your idea really well. So I would say that, generally, I've done two startups where the first one was completely self-funded by the team, and the second one was fully VC funded. And we were very, very careful with the first company. Like every dollar was, we watched out for every dollar. So, on the other hand, when it's VC funded, professionally funded, you take more risk. You end up with a bigger outcome as a consequence. So I think a VC-funded company will probably end up with a much bigger outcome than self-funded, just because you're more aggressive about the whole situation. So I think that's probably the way I would go about it.
Yeah. See, whether you want to go to VCs or self-fund, right? Ultimately, you want to get customers, right? That's why you want to have a GTM, right? So when you build a product, obviously you have some technology that has a differentiating capabilities, right? And there are buildings in India, or in Indore, for example, right, where you can start doing trials of your product to see what's the customer segmentation, what's the scale, what can you do it, right? And the customers don't have to be paying customers. See, that's one, even for VCs, right? When you say you have customers, whatever you say your product does, it should be doing it. And the customer should vouch for it. And you may give them a deal saying you won't charge them for a year or something like that. So there are a lot of ways to test your product, your hypothesis out without spending a whole lot of money. And then if you want to put your own money or VC's money, you know that you can put all of the wood behind the arrow in that segment to get the maximum number of customers instead of pivoting, every few months, which would just be a waste of everybody's money, right?
I can give you a specific example because I've bootstrapped both of my companies. Many times I try to get my, as founding team, sometimes you go with a PowerPoint presentation or a kludged up demo or something like that and get the customers to pay for it. I'll give you two examples. In one case, our own credibility in the industry was sufficient for that customer to write the check, and that was tranched. So they said, as you make progress, you pay. And so you just sign up to that kind of a success model. And the second time around, we wanted to create an open source technology, and we realized that it's a very successful open source project in the video encoding called x265.org. And that funding came from, we created an ecosystem, essentially 4 charter members, we call them. And those companies each paid the entire development cost for the product as a lifetime licensee of the products. So we realized that we get 4 companies to pay for the development. We didn't give up any equity. This is almost like getting government research money or something like that, right? The same model.
Very clever.
But we got that thing, and sure enough, it's a very, very successful product. Chances are, if you're watching an ultra high definition movie today, it'll be watching through that particular encoder. But that's how. So it was an entire industry benefit, right? So you could play games like this. You can get 2-3 customers to fund you, or 1 customer to fund you.
Excellent.
Hi, my name is Bhavesh Shah, and I'm founder and CEO of Tango Tech. Our mission is to transform the data centers of the world by making them 10 times smaller, 70% cheaper, and 55% greener using our carbon forest material science technology. We invented a new material that allowed the servers to be cooled without heat sinks and fans and without any water inside the server. That shrinks everything. And by the way, shrinking everything enables faster network, so that comes for free, 10 times faster network at the same costs. My question was about the marketing, because there's an infrastructure play, and this is a large product, and we are bootstrapped, and we have some proof of concept and material and everything there, but not like big server and all. Now, when we go to market, essentially, we'll be serving a first customer for next 2 years, possibly. And is it the first customer that's willing to say, okay, let me try, and that's our market, or we should wait and strategize? We don't have a clue. What is the right way to do it?
Yeah, well, let me take a quick crack, because I'm sure everybody's got an angle on this, because this happens a lot for enterprise type of products rather than consumer products, where your first customer is going to consume a lot of your energy of the whole company for 2 years, because you don't have resources to support. So these are called anchor customers or strategic accounts. So to be careful that when you decide to pretty much commit to your company's future, because you're going to lose 2 years if the company customer walks away without a referenceable customer at the end of it. So you do your due diligence on the customer, see that you have the trusted relationship, so that if you execute, and then the customer is going to give you a public reference for your hard work. Because sometimes what happens is that maybe the work you do is so good that they want to keep it secret for themselves.
Which is a problem.
Which is a real problem for you, right? Because then you've not developed the market, and nobody knows about you, and you've pretty much given 2 years away to your competitors who might be doing similar stuff. So with strategic accounts like that, you make it clear that, look, I'm committing to you, and but I need something contractually that if I deliver, and you go and purchase a product and start getting the value from it, I'm going to get a public reference, and you can make it into a video reference, something that you can put in your press material, website. So you work all that out before. That is the key. Okay.
I think.
One second, Vikas. See, this is a very classic problem in go-to-market or even in sales and marketing, right? So I call it the Goldilocks problem, right? Neither too big, not too small, just right. So you need a just right customer that doesn't take 2 years. It's not like a one-server data center that you can do in a day, but still has enough ROI that you can show to potential investors and customers. So you have to spend a lot of time trying to find that Goldilocks customer, right? And then whatever Raj said is true. Make them sign the thing to actually have the agreement with you. But spending that time on the right customer would be critical. Like saying, for initially.
Wait for a right customer rather than.
So not wait for them, search for them. Like find out. It's like, because we're waiting for an apple to fall, right? It may never fall.
But also keep in mind, it is very important to learn to say no to whatever you're selling, whether it's hardware or whether it's software. It's very common to find companies where the first customer keeps on demanding and you keep on delivering. So being able to say that this is, to be very clear, not oversell, that this is what we will deliver to you, this is what your expectations are. Sales is all about expectation management. And if you're overcommitting or over-promising, then you will be stuck with those guys for a while. So learn to walk away, learn, and maybe have someone else. This is where a good product manager really helps, because they can actually say no, that this is what we promised, this is what we delivered, and it's not working out in our favor anymore.
Yeah, and one approach that I have taken that worked well is that if you're doing something totally new and that people are having trouble buying into your idea, you try to get some expert, right? For example, find somebody from NASA who done something like this, and try to make them your spokesperson, right? Get them to give endorse you in one way or another. So then, the fact that they're endorsing, there'll be a rest of the industry will support you. So it's kind of a form of marketing that's no, you're not pushing directly.
Advisory board.
Advisory board, but even a spokesperson. I mean, that's an advisory board. Maybe they are just telling you, but in this case, they would go out and you can just be able to give reference. I mean, that makes a very big difference, right? If a customer can call or that person is willing to talk about it and he is the perceived expert in that field, then it makes it easier for you. He or he may not have any interest. He or she may not have interest in your business, but the fact that an independent third party is endorsing you will give a lot of time.
Hi, everyone. I'm Raj Ramaswamy. I'm the CEO, co-founder of a company called ShopNSYNC. What we do is our platform enables brands and retailers build conversational assistive solutions. And the fundamental goals that we serve is really, it starts with a better customer experience for them. And what that translates into is really either a significantly improved acquisition process, so much reduced traffic acquisition cost, or much improved conversion. So whether you're buying a laptop or engine parts or what have you, your customers can now start to ask questions in very natural interfaces. And what we do is we actually make it super simple for that brand, because we just take their catalog data and our platform kind of takes and builds the whole solution for them in a pretty short turnaround. So that's the core product. The company is structured around my co-founder and I. We work together for a long time. He does more of the engineering CTO work. I do more of the product and business. And in the last few months, we've actually seen significant traction from some big brands and some small brands likewise, going from proof of concept to production and kind of growing from that point on. So from a sales and BD perspective, which is what the genesis of this conversation is about, I've been fronting a lot of that part, and as many of you rightly pointed out, you've got to go there and sell. So we've been hitting the pavement, leveraging our networks, pushing as hard as we can, and I think it's been reasonably good. We feel like we are at a point where we want to kind of bring in potentially some more folks to kind of just accelerate that. Maybe somebody with like 5-10 years of SaaS experience and whatnot. And one of the questions we are kind of starting to think about to kind of put together that GTM and just build that broad sales strategy is, what should that person be like? What are the kinds of attributes we want to look for? What are the do's and don'ts that you would suggest to somebody saying, okay, you're at a point where you want to kind of bring somebody in the sales BD piece on. What do you want to look for, right? Okay. I mean, there is some folks that we are kind of partnering with on a trial basis, where we are saying, okay, do this for this vertical, let's see how this goes for the first 3 customers. We're kind of testing that out. But just we're trying to learn that process. So any advice there would be helpful.
So I would say that, if you are going for big branded accounts, that, once you break in, it's going to give you lots and lots of business. For these kinds of accounts, typically the decision is made at a pretty high level, CIO and up, and it's not easy to build a relationship with the CIO type of folks. So so we also had a similar product where we had to sell, $1 million plus kind of a product to these big companies, and I found that, just running into people at random conferences, trying to talk about your great product and solution, sending them, technical information about it or demos, just does not work. These people buy on trust. If they don't trust you, you're just not going to be able to break in. Now, all of these people typically have worked with half a dozen or more salespeople from either Oracle or IBM or Accenture or whoever. And these salespeople have built up and cultivated the relationship over 5, 10, 20 years. So these are what I call big game hunters. And they're expensive, but, you don't, 1 or 2 deals will make your whole company. So essentially, and this is something that, a lot of entrepreneurs are very uncomfortable signing up to hire these big game hunters because they will probably end up making 3 to 4 times the salary of the CEO. And so we are very uncomfortable recruiting such big game hunters because that is the level of compensation that they're accustomed to. In the $500,000 range, $1 million range per year, and so on. But at some point, when you feel that your product solution is just there, it would be perfect if Walmart bought it. You have to go and find that sales guy who would love to, bring your technology and close the deal at Walmart, which will generate him, 6-figure or 7-figure commission check. But you'll have your $5-10 million deal, which will make your company, right? So essentially, what I would recommend is finding the person who's already got the trusted relationship with the decision maker, and move from there.
We are philosophically, I think we want to, it's all about being set up for success. So if that person is able to bring in deals that add to the value, then it makes total sense. How do you find them? What have you?
As I said, you basically have to go ahead and look at who are the people, which companies are calling into Walmart, and it's all in the IT business. So you find who is there. You locate their names one way or the other, look up the visitor log or whatever. You have to use your intelligence gathering methods, and you then go ahead and reach out to them and do your sales job. And these days with LinkedIn and everything, it's really not that difficult to find your list of big game hunters that you want to knock down. Okay.
See, the sales cycle for these large customers and for these big game hunters or elephant hunters, it's longer than getting smaller deals, right? So you got to be prepared to wait it out. So you got to have a balance sheet that supports that, right? And going back to an earlier discussion that somebody else was making, hiring this kind of a person, if it's not a venture-backed company, it's difficult. So they want to see that there's some muscle behind it and stuff. So this is also a good time to go and talk to VCs, saying that we have this huge opportunity. Raising capital would help us hire this kind of a person to take it to the next level. Would be a good way to go about it.
One last piece about big game hunting is you must make sure that you go with the sales rep. Don't expect to just tell the person, hey, go sell my product. And that's the one place where, it's we learned the hard way. We thought we'll build the product, we'll hire some great guys who'll go and sell it for us. No, you have to go with them, and they have the relationships, but you still are the best salesperson. Okay, so remember that, and get over your inhibitions, your whatever clothes you wear and whatever language you speak or whatever you do. And if you're awkward, it's tough. Just go and just do it.
I think that's...
Yeah, sometimes you can also leverage the partners who sell into those type of customers. So if let's say, an Oracle or something like that, it's already selling there, and if you get friends with the Oracle guy, and they may give you, entrance.
Hi everyone, my name is Meena Tadamati, and I'm with Special Needs in My City. It's an online membership site for families with special needs children in Central Valley. And one of the challenges, the site basically saves parents time in having to search for information for their children and provides family support. And as I'm building the ecosystem, because there are many constituents that play a part in taking care of a child with special needs, one of the challenges that I'm facing is how to change the mindset of people who are used to paying nothing for what they are looking for. And so I found that as membership was slowing down, I started to ask myself, why is it not picking up the traction that I want? And even though they love the value proposition that I've offered, they're highly engaged in the parent forums and all that, then I realized I fundamentally have to change their mind shift, because they're used to getting the site for free for 4 years, and all of a sudden it's become a paid model. And I just wanted your thoughts on your insight into is this the norm when you make that transition, going from something free to something that has to be paid for information that you're used to getting for free?
You want to take it or you want me to take it? See, this is a classic. The New York Times faced this, a few years back. And they when they said the New York Times, by the way, is the most expensive newspaper publication compared to any other magazine in the U.S. So they did a survey group, they did focus groups, and said, what would it take? When the iPads were coming out and stuff, how will it affect our print model? And and will customers be willing to pay for what will they be willing to pay for both print and digital, for example, right? And they decided to come up with some bundles and stuff which are more expensive than the Wall Street Journal, more expensive than Fortune, and they're still doing really well. So people are willing to pay for it. But going back to your particular thing, right? Since this is a special, more of a social cause, as to what you're doing, what I would recommend you to do is to still give some things free. Don't make it completely paid, but have some critical information that, if they click that, saying, hey, this comes if you pay, like the Wall Street Journal does, right? Some articles are free and others are not, and that will tell you what they're willing to pay for certain things. Certain sites of your model, certain information,
But I think that shift in mindset is taking time because they're used to getting things, information free, especially in this very niche market.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, if they're getting everything free before, then it's hard to charge for the same thing. But if you come up with something different or new, then there's value. Then you could charge for that. But again, it's how do you differentiate? How do you think of it from your own point of view, a consumer point of view, as to what piece of it what's new that you can actually charge money for,
Or in other words, if they are not willing to pay for it for historical reasons, but there could be support. There could be foundations who would be willing to write checks for that if you go and make the case to them. So that could be another way of, indirectly getting the revenue from other sources and not directly from those constituents.
Hi, I'm Govind Aggarwal. I run this company called Anaxi Digital Runners in India. We provide on-demand verification of people and property via digital runners, which is actually feet on street spread across rural and semi-urban parts of India. My query is, we are creating this workforce, like, Uber has drivers, Airbnb has rooms, we have people, and people spread across a country like India, crossing whole of geography.
Okay.
So we can do a lot of use cases. We started with on-demand verification of people and property because that is background verification is an established business, established customers. It was easy to crack. We were able to get 670 clients in 1 year.
Okay.
Right. But there is other bigger use cases which we can do in terms of data collection, in terms helping brands and industries get into the whole of India. Think about it, like, if reach is not a problem in India, so many brands can penetrate, right? So that is what we are trying to build, a generic kind of platform. In such cases, it's like, it's difficult to keep focus on, one thing or the other. There is always a temptation of creating more use cases, right? So that's what we ended up doing, like 5-6 more use cases. And there could be hundreds of more. So where should I go? It's like, should I keep creating use cases? Because investors, somehow I'm not able to make them convinced, that this is the huge market which we are looking at. So,
You should look for adjacencies. Don't do more than that, right? You should be able to upsell to a client of additional services that are adjacent, but don't try to go orthogonal. Because every time when you try to offer a totally new service, you'll have to end up spending a lot of research, engineering, training, whatever, right? If it is a natural attachment, then it's easy for you to say. In fact, you don't even have to ask permission from your board. You just start showing extra revenue.
See, if Uber went to investors many years back and said, not only will we have cars, self-driving cars, but also like aeroplanes or whatever that will be unmanned aircraft going anywhere that you want, they wouldn't have got funded. So you got to be very, very precise about what one use case and what's the monetization, and
let them
prove
see the
it.
upside later.
One
on.
side,
Yeah, and then
Hi, I'm Mayukini, and I'm the co-founder of Opia, where we make products that make it easier for busy urban people to care for their plants, for example, self-watering systems. So we realized that our target market segment is busy urban people, but we were trying to find them in the wrong places initially in garden stores where like millennials don't go, it's too old school for them. And then we realized that, most of the millennials flaunt their plants in their offices. So we changed our go-to-market strategy and we repositioned our products as corporate green gifts. And since then, we've been getting a very good response. Now the question is, we don't really have a formal marketing person or team right now. And if we are to hire a co-founder or someone like that, right now we are adopting a B2B, but actually to reach the C. But tomorrow we aspire to be, B2C. And so we are really confused about how do you structure a deal, who do you hire, because they probably are two different skill sets to hire to, someone who can sell in an enterprise versus a customer, I don't know.
2 words. Inbound marketing. You need to hire you look at HubSpot, you look at all these things, right? How do you reach the buyer's journey? Who are your buyers, right? How do they come to you as opposed to you going to them?
Right.
So it's all inbound marketing. So you got to invest in somebody who knows HubSpot, who's been with other companies where they're able to generate leads that come to your site, create content in all of these different areas, and that's what's going to get the revenue for you. And there's a lot of information about this on the web. Just look at inbound marketing, HubSpot, and the founders have written books about this.
So since we are also bootstrapped, we have been getting advice from other bootstrapped founders that, go to commission agents and try to get them to sell your product to enterprises, and then figure out whether you want to stay enterprise for longer or do you want to go retail faster. So what do you think about that?
Going to the consumer is very expensive and it is difficult. The fact that you're measuring responses from different ways of go-to-market, that itself is huge. That's good. But I think going to the enterprise, it's more tangible, it's more touchable. If you're able to successfully grow that part of the business, then I would say you take a stab at going at the consumer, and you'll be at a much better position to decide and measure. Because if you try to take a two-pronged strategy at so early in your stage, you might not work in either one of them. So consumer is tough. I think going directly if you have an enterprise strategy, go with that, go all the way, see how far you can go with that.
But even there, in enterprise, inbound marketing and less direct commission sales agents, right, would work better in the long term.
In this particular case.
In this particular case.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.